The border war you're not being told about has just exploded. Unconfirmed intelligence reports claim the world's most wanted narco-terrorist, Mencho, has been killed. These are the whispers coming from inside intelligence circles, a scenario the mainstream media is too afraid to touch. But the evidence suggests a catastrophic event may be unfolding right now as we speak. They didn't defuse a bomb, they pushed the detonator. This is the story of the Jalisco detonation. I'm about to show you how this one action may have triggered a full-scale war in a place where millions of Americans go on vacation. Have you ever been to Puerto Vallarta? Let me know in the comments. Because as part of this analysis, we are going to explore what happens when paradise turns to inferno. Imagine American tourists trapped. Imagine families caught in the crossfire. This problem is no longer over there. We will connect these unconfirmed reports to the very real, verified $10 million bounty on his head. And we will connect them to the chillingly accurate predictions made by figures like Donald Trump, who warned this exact chaos was coming. This isn't just a story, it's a terrifyingly plausible scenario that proves, without a doubt, that our border is the single greatest threat to U.S. national security. If you believe our leaders need to wake up and see this threat for what it is, hit that subscribe button right now. Before we analyze the explosion, you must first understand the bomb. The Jalisco New Generation Cartel is not a gang, it is a narco-terrorist army, and its leader, Nemesio Oseguera Cervantes, known as El Mencho, is one of the most wanted men on earth. The United States government has a verified $10 million bounty on his head. This is the same level as the leaders of ISIS. He is known for a level of sadistic violence that is almost unimaginable. A monster who dissolves his enemies in acid and leaves a trail of bodies as a calling card. This is the man they allegedly killed, but his organization, the CJNG, is far more than just one man. Look, they are a paramilitary force. We have verified footage of their convoys, dozens of armored trucks filled with soldiers in body armor, carrying high-caliber machine guns and rocket launchers. This is not hyperbole. In 2015, they used a rocket-propelled grenade to shoot down a Mexican military helicopter, killing everyone on board. Did you know a cartel had this kind of military power? Type yes or no below. So the question is, how did they get this powerful? How did a criminal enterprise build an army on our doorstep? A hard reading of these events shows a direct connection. Their rise was financed by the poison they pour across our southern border. Every dollar they make from fentanyl killing American citizens is a dollar they use to buy more sophisticated weapons. The very policies that created a porous, undefended border did not just invite illegal immigration. What this suggests is that those policies armed a hostile military force. The pattern indicates this is no longer just crime. This is a narco-insurgency, an enemy state allowed to fester and grow right next door. Now we move from the bomb's design to the violent explosion itself. This is the play-by-play of the unconfirmed reports, the story of the Jalisco detonation. The whispers from intelligence sources paint a grim picture. They allege that in the hours following the rumored death of El Mencho, the body count began to climb with horrifying speed. The unconfirmed total stands at 62 dead. According to these reports, the number includes 34 cartel sicarios, but also, tragically, 25 members of the Mexican National Guard, and 3 civilians. 3 innocent people caught in a war they never asked for. This is the price of weakness. The reports then describe a textbook terror response, a coordinated siege designed to paralyze an entire state. The pattern indicates roadblocks on all major highways, with hijacked trucks and buses set ablaze to create walls of fire. It suggests coordinated attacks hitting Guadalajara and the tourist paradise of Puerto Vallarta simultaneously. This isn't crime. It is warfare. Imagine being an American tourist trapped in your hotel, watching the streets below turn into a war zone. Look, there is no escape. The roads are blocked, the airport is a target, and the authorities who were supposed to protect you are now fighting for their own lives. What would you even do? But here's the most infuriating part of all. This was not unforeseen. It was simply ignored. For years, Donald Trump warned that the cartels were evolving into narco-terrorist armies. For years, his allies like Caroline Leavitt predicted this exact type of escalation, this precise kind of chaos bleeding from a failed state. A reading of these events shows their warnings were not just political rhetoric, they were prophecies. They were the fire alarms that our current leaders chose to disconnect because the sound was inconvenient. It might be a coincidence that the tactics described in these reports, the coordinated attacks, the public displays of force, the targeting of state infrastructure, perfectly mirror the playbook of designated terrorist organizations across the world. It might be a coincidence. But the evidence suggests something far more terrifying. They are not just acting like terrorists. They are proving that is exactly what they have become. An explosion is never contained to the blast site. Now we track the shockwave. We follow it as it travels north from the Jalisco detonation and smashes directly into the United States, a nation left deliberately vulnerable. The first, most immediate effect is the accelerant poured onto the fire already consuming our communities, the fentanyl pipeline. A narco war is an incredibly expensive enterprise. It requires a constant flow of cash for weapons, ammunition, armored vehicles, and corrupt officials. A reading of these events shows that to finance this new war, the cartel has only one logical move. They must push their most profitable, most deadly product north with an aggression and a volume we have never seen before. The war in Mexico, you understand, will be paid for not with pesos, but with the lives of more Americans. It is a business model funded by our own destruction, and the border is the superhighway for this death. The same porous, undefended line on a map that allows drugs to flow north will now allow the violence to spill over. This is not some future threat. It is a present, active danger. Governor Greg Abbott has stated, publicly and repeatedly, a verified fact. Cartel violence, human trafficking networks, recruitment, and cartel-run safe houses are already operating inside Texas. The infrastructure for this spillover is not being built. It is already in place. This is the nightmare they swore would never happen. For years, the establishment media and the politicians in their pocket have dismissed these warnings. They called it hyperbole. They called it fear-mongering. They ridiculed anyone who spoke of cartel spillover violence as if it were a fantasy. It might be a coincidence that their dismissal aligned perfectly with a political agenda of open borders. But when you connect the dots, the pattern is undeniable. Treating a full-blown national security threat as a simple immigration problem has led us, predictably and catastrophically, to the edge of this cliff. Who do you think is truly to blame for letting our border become this vulnerable? Let me know in the comments. The initial shockwave from the Jalisco detonation has passed, but do not be mistaken. This is not the end. Now we must prepare for the toxic fallout, the radioactive consequences that will poison the region for months or even years to come. The chaos is only just beginning. Based on decades of observing these narco states, a reading of these events suggests one highly probable outcome, a bloody, all-out war of succession. What this means is that El Mencho's death wouldn't end the violence. It would multiply it. His lieutenants would immediately turn on each other in a savage fight for control of his multi-billion-dollar empire. Simultaneously, rival cartels like Sinaloa would seize the moment of weakness, launching attacks to claim territory. The result would be an explosion of violence, pushing a tidal wave of death and instability right up against our southern border. But there is another scenario, a possibility that is far more direct and far more terrifying. It might sound like something from a Hollywood script, but the strategic pattern is chillingly plausible. To escape the inevitable crackdown from the Mexican military, or worse, to deliberately open a new front in their war, it is entirely possible that elite CJNG Sicario units could attempt a coordinated border incursion. We are not talking about migrants. Look, we are talking about trained, heavily armed combatants crossing into Arizona, into Texas, bringing the physical war onto American soil. This is the threat they told you was impossible. It is the inevitable result of an open door. So what are the signals you need to watch for? Pay very close attention to the news the establishment tries to bury. Look for unexplained spikes in violence in border cities like Tijuana and Juarez. Watch for any official reports, however quiet, of Border Patrol encountering individuals with tactical gear and military-grade weapons. And when you hear governors from border states issue new, desperate warnings, you understand, you will know the fallout has arrived. They are seeing the first signs of the invasion. Share this video with one person who still thinks the border is just about immigration. They need to see what's really at stake. Now let's connect the dots to something truly terrifying, you understand. In 2026, Mexico is scheduled to co-host the World Cup, the biggest single sporting event on the planet. A direct reading of this crisis suggests a security nightmare of historic proportions, with millions of international visitors and families walking directly into a nation that, in this scenario, is in the grips of a full-blown narco-civil war. How can any government possibly guarantee their safety? They can't. And this catastrophic vulnerability is not an isolated problem. It is a symptom of a much deeper rot, a systemic failure. It might be a coincidence, but the pattern indicates that the same perceived weakness that invites aggression across the globe is inviting this insurgency right next door. The administration's absolute failure to control its own border has sent a powerful signal of incompetence to the entire world, and you can be sure the cartels were listening very, very carefully. This explains the timing. They sense weakness. They are making their move right now because they believe our leadership is too distracted, too compromised, and too unwilling to act decisively to protect American interests, let alone our own border. It leaves us with an unavoidable question. Is Mexico a failed state? Answer in the comments below. The Jalisco detonation was a warning. We've shown you a plausible, terrifying scenario based on whispers from inside intelligence circles. We've laid bare how the CJNG operates as a terrorist army, an army funded by the profits pouring through an open border. We have shown you how this chaos is not contained. It is destined to spill into America. The bomb has been exposed. Now, you have a choice. This isn't just a story, you understand. It is ammunition. Use it. Demand that your representatives designate these cartels as foreign terrorist organizations. Demand that they finally seal the border. If you want justice and a secure border, type the word justice in the comments below. The war for our sovereignty is happening every single day, and you will not see the truth on the nightly news. They will not show you what comes next, but we will. In my next video, we will expose the specific politicians who have voted against stronger border security time and time again. Make sure you are subscribed so you do not miss it.